in this segment of Starting Point Photography, website startingpointphotography.com. Please go if you want more information, more links, more stuff. I will admit, I'll be the first one to admit that it took a great deal of convincing, conniving, flat out whining for...
You are the whiniest whiner. People have or maybe people do. It is unreal, you guys.
Just turned into a giant 7-year-old. I want you, I want you, I want you.
It's just pathetic.
I'm not proud of it. All right?
No, do it. Give it to him so he'll just shut up.
I was a 7-year-old. I want this, I want this, I want this. Well, we got it a week ago tomorrow. Is it just tomorrow? Yeah, a week ago tomorrow. Showed up in the door. And of course, it's raining outside.
No, it showed up when we weren't
even here. The mailman just sort of dropped it off. I was like, dude, don't just drop this
Damon's
thing
like,
off.
can I open it? Sean says, no! You wouldn't even let him open it.
Got it home.
No, we got home.
We got home, opened the box, and there it was. It's right. Yes, it is. Look at this. Look at this. This is the Mavic 2 Pro Hasselblad 1-inch sensor camera, 4K, 10-bit HDR video, omnidirectional optical sensing, 8-kilometer video transmission range, 31-minute flight time, 72 kilometers an hour maximum speed. Whoa!
What's your max now, baby?
63 kilometers an hour, which is about 40 miles an hour. And that big box, there it is. There it is, the DJI 2 Mavic. Sorry, DJI Mavic 2 Pro. Very compact, surprisingly compact. Without the battery, surprisingly light as well. Not suspiciously so. They've done a really interesting job on the finish, so it doesn't feel smooth and plasticky. It's got kind of a little textured edge to it, and it's really very interesting. So check it out. You open up the arms, the not the propellers, the arms of this thing. So there's the front of the drone. And then the bottom flip down and back around. I'll do this with both of these.
He's getting much more adept at this and fast and comfortable.
Melissa, if I can get you to turn it on. Kidding, no.
I can't. I know that already.
This is really cool. This is ridiculously easy to fly. I am very, very surprised at how simple this was to take off. There's a button on the remote that just simply, you push the button and it goes whoop, and about 3 feet in the air, it just sits there and hovers, waiting for you. Your remote has two joysticks on it, and one for one for up and down, one for turning the drone on its center axis, one for going forward and going backwards, and then one for tilting left and right. And the stability of this camera, of this gimbal set, you can't see it now because I've got a plastic cover on the camera and the gimbal mechanism. Very, very stable. I mean, there are times when I've been moving the drone back and forth fairly significantly, and the stabilization on the video was surprisingly good. And the video quality is very good. Our son, Damon, is a very accomplished drone pilot. You want to check him out at Damon Berryman Photography on Instagram. Very accomplished drone pilot, very, very good pilot. And he has a DJI Mavic Pro, the previous version of this one. And when I was first talking about this, picking his brain about flying and shooting and that kind of stuff, he wasn't all that impressed by the specs of the 2 Pro, the Mavic 2 Pro. Then he flew it.
And then he looked at the results.
Then he saw the video, and he saw the pictures, and was like, I have to buy one of these.
Mm-hmm.
I posted a couple pictures on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram and all the places that you can follow me. But basically, the ability to fly it, certainly straight away from you, straight back, left and right and turning, is very, very simple. Don't tell him I said this, in a wide open area, I will let Rory fly this because it's that easy to do. It's got a beginner's mode where when you turn beginner's mode on, and beginner mode comes on by default on your first flight, it will only fly 30 meters away from you and only fly vertically 30 meters. So that's within easy visual range. And the school track that we have up here, it'll still be within that track range. So very, very easy to fly. MacMan says that you get the Fly More combo. No, I didn't, MacMan, because A, the Canadian dollar isn't worth very much. That bag that DJI sells, Melissa very kindly, very sweetly went out on Christmas Eve, I think it was, to get that bag.
Yeah, on the day, yeah.
And it turns out that bag sucks. The official DJI bag, as we found out from our son Damon, who has it, and I didn't realize this before Melissa bought it, the inside of that bag is plastic. Well, we live in a very moist environment here on the Sunshine Coast. The drone is going to get damp, if not actually wet. You don't want to take your drone and put it into a plastic bag, which is functionally what the DJI Mavic bag is. It's a plastic bag. I don't want to put my electronics, the propellers and the batteries and the charger and the remote control into a plastic bag. So there's no way I wanted that one once. Even before Melissa bought it, I didn't want it because it was too expensive for what it had. Didn't need, I thought at the time, didn't need the 2 extra batteries and didn't need the 2 sets of extra propellers or the car charger. Well, now I want the extra batteries because it is so much fun to fly this thing. And I'm not even talking taking videos or anything. It just, there's a little bit of fighter pilot mentality in your head. I'll give you that. There's certainly a little bit of that 12-year-old boy going.
I seriously haven't noticed.
I may have made those noises at some point. I'm just saying, I may have.
I am pretty enchanted by Dexter myself. He's
Dexter.
Wormed his way into my heart.
The other thing about flying that makes it so easy is that, and certainly on the Mavic 2 Pro, the obstacle avoidance systems in beginner situations. Now, maybe a pro can make it do this, but as a beginner, as a guy who's only flown the drone less than a week, we have tested this out where I've flown it at slow speed, flown it directly at Melissa, directly at myself, and it stops a good distance away. It stops a good 5 feet, a meter away from you, doesn't it? And you cannot force it to go further. You can go up, it can go down, it can go left, it can go right, but it will not continue to go further. Same with backwards. It will not fly backwards into somebody. I've had a couple of flights where, because of the angle I was standing, I couldn't see the obstacle. And remember when we were out yesterday, had the drone flying backwards on a pier, and the pier had one big giant pylon 10 feet in the air, and the drone just stopped. And it was because I hadn't realized from the angle I was standing that the drone would have, at least it thought, it would have hit that pylon. When we were flying out in Gospel Rock, there was times when it was a good distance away where you could see visual line of sight, so you're supposed to keep it within your view. But I lost it in the background clutter of the mountains in the background, and bringing it back or sending it out there. There was a tree branch in the way that I didn't see the tree branch. The drone saw the tree branch. Now you don't want to force it. You don't want to test it because the tree branch has to be a certain width or thickness before it will see it. So you can't take too many chances. But it is very, very interesting flying it. It won't, you put it over top of your head, it won't land on your head, dumb stuff like that. It will warn you when it gets too low, even if it's out over the water. When I flew yesterday along the harbor here in Gibsons, and it was a couple times I lowered it down to the water as low as I could in the water, as low as I could see, and I could see the warnings on their app that said, you're 10 feet away, 5 feet away, 4 feet away, kind of thing. So it's very surprising how simple it is as a flying device. I have not, and probably will not for at least a little while, do what Damon does. Damon will go to the forest and the parks here and fly through trees very slowly. There's a thing called trip mode on it that only fly at a meter a second. So it's a very, very tiny controlled flight. And when we went out with him a couple days ago, he did that with his drone, and it was a beautiful shot.
It really was,
gorgeous.
wasn't it? It was...
I'm not at that confidence level yet, but it's got a bunch of interesting flight modes. It's got a what's called a droning mode, which basically does a 45-degree flight away from you, or away from the object you've chosen. We've chosen ourselves. It's got a rocket mode where it just goes straight up and shoots whatever you've chosen there. It's got a helix mode, which means it'll do a spiral around you as it rises up. It's got an asteroid mode. We haven't used the asteroid mode because I think that one's kind of silly. So there's a bunch of what they call intelligent flight modes. The one I've had the most fun with is, we did this yesterday, is the tracking mode, where you tell Dexter, track me. And then you walk away, and Dexter follows you. Mm-hmm. And it follows you in a very organic kind of way. It doesn't stick there and not move, but it will move a little around you. And I don't know if that's because of its own position, whether it's doing it on purpose, or whether it's just doing it because it's still kind of keeping the tracking. But it's a really neat effect when you see it. I'm editing a video now that will hopefully be up tomorrow evening, and I'll show you guys this really neat organic effect of the drone following you. And also, you can have the drone in front of you, and you can walk towards it, and it will back up. So you can do a tracking shot that way. You can also do a profile tracking shot. So you're here, and the drone is here, and it follows you in profile. There's a hyperlapse mode, which I haven't gotten very successful at, but I'll also practice that. There's a bunch of other modes that help you, as an inexperienced pilot, get really cool shots. Now, Damon has said he doesn't use any of these modes because he's such a good pilot. He can recreate the modes on his own. But the biggest thing, photography-wise, that I've noticed is it takes... you have to figure out all the settings. And there's probably, I'd say, 100 different settings on the drone for any number of things. But you got to find the photo and the video settings, and then you got to tweak them. You really got to spend some time thinking, okay, this is how I want to move the drone. I want to move it very smoothly, so I got to get the gimbal settings to be very smooth, or the movement left and right of the drone very smooth, or the spinning on its axis very smooth. And you got to figure out what those things are and how to do them, because you won't get the worst thing in the world. You see so much of this stuff on YouTube videos that people are pilots first and photographers second, and so or videographers second. And you see a lot of these videos, the guys are doing it, it's like, and he goes up and goes, pip, pip, pip. It is very jerky and very hard to watch. Or there was one guy posted on the MavicPilots.com website. This video, it was boring as shit. It was a lovely video. He went up and around his house, but there was nothing there. There was no story being told. These guys are just flying and videotaping their flying, as opposed to flying to tell a story, to create an image. I love the photograph that you and I and Damon took at the field the first day, where it was about, I'd say, 6 feet away and on an angle. And everyone knows your most flattering photographs are when you're looking up a little bit, because it raises your chin. You know, as we get older, we get these wrinkles. And raising your chin up stretches your neck a little bit as opposed to looking down at it. So the drone allows you to get this nice little angle at the people where they're looking up at the drone. So everyone just looks more attractive. A shot you can't get, hand holding a DSLR.
No.
We got a couple of really neat shots of using the droning mode of Melissa and I standing on Gospel Rock and just having the drone move backwards 45 degrees, fly backwards for about 50 meters. Interestingly enough, when I first was reading about this and I saw that the elevation, AGL, above ground level, so the height, the max height that you can fly here in Canada and a lot of other places is 120 meters. I thought, well, that's not very far. Holy crap, 120 meters is high.
It is, isn't it?
120 meters, you can't see squat. It's just useless. The danger is, though, you can send it 8 kilometers away. So we can stand on Gibson's and send it over to Keats Island.
We could.
We could. It would fly that far.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that I was saying to MacMan, we are so blessed here because we have so many places we can drone and the freedom to do the droning.
We've got 2 airports on the Sunshine Coast, but they're in a town called Seashell, which is a half hour away. So everything around, if you do a search on Google Maps for Gibsons, everything within a half hour drive of us here, and you can't drive very far here, is perfectly okay to fly in. And a lot of the city of Vancouver is, surprisingly enough, especially on the North Shore. Obviously, right in the city, you're a lot more limited. We've got a major airport out in Richmond, which has a huge exclusion zone, a no-fly zone.
I'm so sorry.
Bless you.
I have a dusty microphone. Sorry.
But there are some places we can fly in Vancouver. Not as many as other places, but that's to be expected. You're in a major city.
That's what we could do for an hour when we're over there.
That's right.
We could go fly.
Common sense rules for a lot of the stuff. You don't fly over people. You don't fly at people. The couple of times when we've been flying and there's been people around, I've either sent the drone away or brought the drone back to us. And so the drone is in our area. I'm never going to fly, not never, but I'm never intentionally going to fly over someone who doesn't know I'm going to fly over them. I'm going to ask permission from somebody. I don't want to scare someone's dog. We were at the field a few days ago, and there was a guy out there playing with his dog, and we just waited for them to go away before I even launched the drone. We had a family, Asian family yesterday. We were out on the dock, and they were coming towards us along the pier, and I just made sure the drone was far enough away from them they wouldn't be scared of it. But then when they saw what I was doing, the kids were like, "That's a drone! Bring it over here!" So I flew it back to them.
Everybody so far has just been interested.
Yeah, we took. Hopefully, the video came out. We went into the town of Gibson. There's two areas of Gibsons. One called Upper Gibson, where we live, and there's Lower Gibson, which is much more the touristy kind of area.
It's historical.
Very historical. For those of you folks who remember, you're old enough to remember the Beachcombers. Gibson's is the town of the Beachcombers. Molly's Reach, the restaurant of the Beachcombers, is still here. And so I wanted to get that iconic shot of Molly's Reach, but it's right in the middle of the town. So we just waited until there was no tourists around. It was New Year's Day, so there wasn't going to be a whole lot of people wandering around. And we just waited for everyone to be clear of the area. And this is very similar to the things we talk about in other photography, especially street photography. You get ready for the shot. So I had already visualized the kind of shot I wanted to get with the drone, knew how to accomplish it. I visualized what I would do to get the shot, and then waited for the conditions for the drone. And it was really simple. The drone sits on the ground. It's got these little legs here in the front, so it tilts up a little bit. I fired up the remote control, fired up the drone, and then immediately started recording. So the drone would record on the ground. And then with the statue in front of me, I could see on the video from the camera, I could see on the video of the iPhone, because you use your iPhone to get flight information, the video, and those kinds of things. So I could see on the iPhone that the drone, if it went straight up, would capture the picture I wanted to. So I looked around, made sure there were no people walking around. Drone took off. I went up, got my shot, brought it right back down again. Didn't fly around the town or anything else like it. Just went straight up, straight down. And then we went over to Molly's Reach, did the same thing at Molly's Reach. Waited for no tourists to be around, had the shot all framed up already, took off, went straight up, came straight back down again. That's all I wanted to do, was to get that shot. So preparation is important, not only for DSLR shots and visualization, not just for DSLR shots, but also for drone shots. When I'm learning to fly, I hit record at the very beginning and just record everything, all my flight stuff. But eventually I'll get much more specific about what I want to do. I already know the kind of shots, some of the kind of shots that I want to get in Lisbon. Mm-hmm. And I know when we go to Lisbon in March, there are shots of the, I can't remember the name, the Plaza Camerico, I think it's called, that we'll get up at dawn and get those shots. The Belém Tower, maybe the monastery. I'll carry around with me for the entire time. But for the most part, I'd love to be able to get some shots up through the alley, the tracking shots, up through the stairs of the Alfama. The Alfama is this twisty, windy stair area, very hilly. And that kind of thing would be kind of neat to be able to set the drone up to get tracking shots as we go up these stairs or down these stairs. But I wouldn't do it if there was other people around. Now, I think it was MacMan was asking about the legality of this. from what I've been able to understand, and this is something you should do your research. The best website I found so far, MacMan, if you know of another one, let me know. MavicPilots.com. I signed up to them, did a search for Portugal, and there's a bunch of people giving you advice on what's legal and not legal in particular countries. In this case, it was Portugal. The Portuguese have an app that will tell you where you can fly and what conditions. The problem is it's in Portuguese, so I can't use it. DJI has an app on the phone that will tell you what the no-fly zones are, and in the no-fly, they have zones that they tell you be cautious in, and they have zones that are no-fly zones, and literally your drone will not take off in a no-fly zone. It literally won't even get off the ground in a no-fly zone. So what you do is, I found out that you send an email to the AAN in Portugal, the Aeronautical something, and basically tell them, this is what I want to do. I'd like permission to do this. And I didn't get any flack or anything. The person who wrote back, Felipe, said, yes, you can do this. Just make sure you don't fly over crowds. Make sure you don't fly outside of line of sight. Make sure you don't fly over 120 meters. All the usual common sense things.
Seems very lightweight.
Well, if you want, that's in Lisbon. If I wanted to fly someplace else where there was an Air Force base, there's a couple of bases around Lisbon, then I would need specific permission to fly in those areas. But around the city of Lisbon, they just basically say, use your common sense. Don't be an asshole with your drone. And I've seen other people say that they've taken the drone off. There's a castle, a Moorish castle on one of the hills, South George Castle. And I've seen guys say they've taken their drone off with cops standing right next to them and flown the drone out to get a shot of themselves, and the cops haven't done anything. Basically, it's use your common sense. Don't be a dick. Don't try to fly over people. Don't fly over things that you shouldn't be flying over, and you're going to be pretty fine. And that's true of a lot of places. Again, as Melissa said, we're very lucky. We're in a very wide open area here. There's all kinds of places I'd like to go shoot. But the closer you get to a major city, the more geo zones, no-fly zones you're going to get. For example, Washington, D.C., whole city. You cannot fly a drone anywhere within 5 miles of Washington, D.C., which makes sense. Same with New York City. New York City, I think all of Manhattan is a no-fly zone because there's no place you can safely fly in Manhattan. Maybe Bryant Park or Central Park, but even that's a lot of people around there. So make sure you know what the rules are. For some people, it may not be worth buying a drone because of where they live. It's all one giant exclusion area. But for most of us, if you have a car, you can get out into the countryside and take some interesting shots. If you want more information, you can go to MavicPilots.com and see what they have to say. You can send me emails. I'm just a beginner pilot, a beginning flyer, so don't expect a whole lot from me. Still learning about the shooting aspects of it. There is a lot to learn on this stuff. But I will tell you, the initial aspects of it are very, very simple. I would not be afraid of recommending to anybody who's into drone flying to buy one of these drones because they're very, very simple to fly. Surprisingly so. I thought it would be a lot more complicated to fly this thing, but it's not. It's really very, very simple.